Hi everyone, I'm David Scranton from the Income Generation, and today we're going to take a bit of a departure on this video from a lot of the top financial topics we've been discussing. And today we're just going to talk about success in general, right? Tell me if this sounds like something you've experienced, or maybe you know someone who's gone through this before. One year you get up January 1st, you decide to set some goals for that year. Maybe they're goals, maybe they're New Year's resolutions, because you've been taught, maybe you've heard from people, maybe you read books that said successful people set goals every year. But then you get to December 31st and maybe you didn't achieve your goal, or maybe the New Year's resolution that you made to go to the gym every day started off nicely with that new gym membership you purchased in January, but by mid-February you stopped going. So next year you got fired up, you set some goals again. But by the end of that second year, again, you failed to achieve those goals. And then after a little while, you start to get discouraged and you say, you know what, this is a waste of time. This goal setting thing really doesn't work. All these self-help gurus like to talk about it, but it doesn't do a darn thing for me. And then you spend several years just kind of going through the motions, being really afraid to think about what it is you really want in life because you're afraid of failure. You're afraid if you go for it, you might not achieve it. But on the other hand, you know that there are people in life that have set goals every year and almost in a very predictable fashion, year in and year out, they've achieved those goals. And you sit here and wonder what separates what you've had for an experience with goal setting versus their experience with goal setting. And I have found in my experience that's really one thing, and that is those who are good at setting and achieving goals year after year have one thing in common, and they're good at living those goals in their mind in advance in sensory-specific fashion. Now, I want to talk to you about how to do this, but before I do, I want to let you know there's a danger here. There's a side effect, okay? Well, this isn't quite that bad, but I will tell you there's a negative to doing this if you get really good at it. Life kind of gets boring, you know, because I set a goal, I achieve it. I set another goal and, I achieve that goal. And all of a sudden it's anticlimactic. And that's the biggest thing, because goals do become anticlimactic after a while. Now, before I started mentoring, when I just had a widely successful financial practice almost 20 years ago, I was into boats. And I was into big boats. And I loved taking the boat for a 4-day weekend and going places and living on it. And it was great. So one day I decided I wanted to really stretch my boundaries and go to a bigger boat, something that was greater than I've ever had before. Frankly, something that most people might never achieve. It was a 75-foot motor yacht. And I was going to hire a captain, I was going to hire a chef and everything else. Now that, you can imagine, cost a lot of money. And I had to set that up as a goal and I had to work toward that. And I set the goals. I used the techniques I'm going to share with you in just a minute. I lived that goal in sensory-specific fashion in advance in my mind. And what happened? Well, I bought it. The problem was most people, if they bought a motor yacht like that, they'd be so ecstatic, they'd be on cloud nine for a long time. And I remember the first evening that I had some people over and I was on the boat. And I remember staring out into space, and my friend who knows me all too well, he said, "You're daydreaming. You're out looking at the moon. I know what you're thinking of. You're thinking about what your next big goal is, aren't you?" And I kind of laughed because he's known me since high school. And I said, you know what? You're right. That's exactly what I am thinking about it. So here's the disclaimer, okay? Setting goals and achieving them is not going to cause cancer or early death or heart attack or anything like that. But what it is going to cause is boredom. It's going to cause you to achieve goals. And unfortunately, the goals may not be as fulfilling as you'd like, but there's a reason for it. The reason is because you've enjoyed the excitement about that goal in your mind in sensory-specific fashion before you even achieved it. And it was so vivid to you that by the time you achieved that goal, it was just checking off the box, because in your mind, you've already lived that for a long time. It's like having a dream, right? Think about it. When you have a dream and you wake up and you think, oh, did that really happen? Is that really a dream? I literally had a dream last night where I bumped into my best friend from high school. And it was so real and I was so excited and I hugged him and I hadn't seen him in a while. I'm like, "Hi, Mark, how you doing?" And then I woke up And it was so real, and I was excited. And then I remember he died in 2009. And I didn't know about it because we had grown apart and nobody ever told me. But that's how real it can be, just like a dream, when you go through this goal-setting process the right way, okay? So here we go. I'm going to give it to you real quick and real simple. Goals should be based around 3 categories. Everything that you want to have, do, or become in your life. Have goals are easy. They're the material goals. That's where, sales coaches have said, hey, if you want to go out and buy a brand new Corvette, what do? You get a picture of it, you put it up right next on your wall, right next to your desk, and you've got that visualization of that great goal you want to achieve. So the have goals are the easiest, but the problem is as you accumulate money, you become more successful. It's not about the have goals anymore. It's more about the do and become goals. Because the do goals are really about the life experiences. It's about taking your family to places that they wanted to go and experiencing things with your loved ones and with your friends. Those are the do goals. And it's not quite as easy with those as it is with the Corvette, just putting that picture up next to your desk. And lastly are the become goals, the kind of person that you want to become in your life. A great way to do this sometimes is to think about what you want, even though it's a little bit morbid, what you want people to say about you at your death as a eulogy. Okay? Those are the person you want to become. What do you want to be known as a father or mother, as a husband or wife, as a sibling, as an employer, as a coworker, you name it. Those are your become goals. So how do you do this? How do you get to a point where you can live them in sensory specific fashion? Well, the first step is you've got to go somewhere and disappear away from everybody. You got to shut your phone off for at least a day. It could be several days. Usually it's several days, but it could be one day at a time. Then you take a break and you do it again. I know life gets in the way, but you can't be interrupted because you've got to be allowed to dream like a little child, right? When you're a little child, you want to be a billionaire and you want to be a fireman. Well, you don't need me to tell you there aren't a lot of firemen that are billionaires, right? But when you're a child, you dream. Become an adult, you stop dreaming. So you've got to go to a place that's inspiring to you. I know when I first did this, I went to Nantucket Island, one of my favorite places in the entire world. I went to the end of a long beach, and I sat there and I just dreamt about what I wanted to have, do, or become. And at first, it's a little difficult if you're not creative. If you're more left-brained and not so much right-brained, you're not so creative, it might be a challenge. But as you start to think about the things you want to have, do, or become, all of a sudden it gets easier and the list starts to expand and you start to write all of them down. But then just creating a list doesn't excite you. What excites you is now writing about these things in sensory-specific fashion. So let me give you a couple examples, okay? If you, let's say, want a beach home, it's not just enough to say beach home on a piece of paper. You have to write about, again, sensory specific. So think about your 5 senses, right? What it feels like when you walk out of your house on the beach and put your toes in the sand and the sun's beating down on your head. What it smells like when you smell the salt air. What it looks like when you see the boats going by. Okay, what it sounds like when you hear the waves crashing. And if you can write about that in sensory specific fashion, now you've created a dream for yourself, just like a dream when you're sleeping. And now you have like a DVD, so to speak, that when you want to get motivated, you can plug that DVD in your brain and you can think about that goal and dream about it in sensory specific fashion. So when you actually achieve that goal, again, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but it's anticlimactic. But you know what? That's going to motivate you. And why is it going to motivate you? Because it's going to motivate you because it's going to activate that part of the subconscious brain we often call the reticular activating system. That's the brain, part of the brain that's programmed to notice things, but only when it is programmed to notice things. So let me give you an analogy. You might be able to relate, right? You go out and buy a car of some sort. I don't know what it is. It could be a black Grand Cherokee, the first black Grand Cherokee you've ever had, right? And that day you see 20 of the doggone black Grand Cherokees on the street. You've never seen 20 in a day. What just happened? Because your subconscious mind is now programmed to see black Grand Cherokees because you just bought one, right? Well, the same is true here. When you know what your goals are and you've written about them in sensory specific fashion, not just a couple of words on a piece of paper. I want to buy a beach house in such and such town. No, that's not going to do it. But writing about how it looks, how it sounds, how it feels, how it smells. That's what's going to motivate that subconscious part of your brain called the reticular activating system. And that's what's going to help you find subconscious things that's going to draw you toward achieving that goal. What if it's a do goal? Well, a good friend of mine had a goal where he wanted to go to and have a long mission trip. He wanted to spend weeks in Africa, and he wanted to help the underprivileged. So he literally wrote about everything that it would look like. Now for him, he had to have enough money so he could take that much time off from his business and make it work. But he wrote about it in such century-specific fashion that he actually told a story in his writing about a little girl and what it would seem like and what it would feel like and what it would look like. And because he was able to live that goal in sensory-specific fashion so many times in his mind in advance, guess what? It took him 2 years and he was able to do it. So again, whatever experience you've had in your life, if you set goals and you failed to achieve them, I'm here to tell you that, boom, with the snap of a finger, following this process, you can reverse that trend. And you can become just as good at setting and achieving goals as you were at setting them and not achieving them. And guess what? Just as much as you lost that confidence in your ability to set and achieve them after only a couple of years, you can regain that confidence after a couple of years and success. So give it a try. Report back to me. I want to hear your success stories. I love hearing this. This works. It's time consuming. It takes a few days to write down some of these things. And some of you may not be creative. You may say, gee, I'm not good at it. But you know what? That's a limiting belief. You do it, you'll become good at it. You'll become better at it. And when you realize what you can achieve in your life, all your wildest dreams, you'll do it every year and you'll never stop. So please report back to me. Let me know how it goes. I can't wait to hear all about it. Meanwhile, if you like this video, please click the thumbs up and let us know you liked it and become a subscriber to our YouTube channel. I hope this helped. Thank you.